Riccardo's just told me, so when you start a new business, and I pulled out my camera, what am I about to learn?
So everything is innovation. And startup is basically Scrum. Everybody does everything, and everybody's trying to figure things out as they go along. You're trying to get a minimum viable product out as quickly as you can because you need income, and so this is how your company starts. Now the problem is, when you've got a startup, you've got your innovation, but as soon as you have innovation, if you know something works, you want to turn it into a standard operating procedure. So what happens is, and in our restaurant, when we were super busy in 1995, we were so busy we had 100 people a night we were turning away. We had a queue down the road that we needed to turn everything into a standard operating procedure as quickly as possible. But what happens in a business is that you turn it into that, and then it becomes a block of stone and never changes. Now, in Scrum or any Agile practice, what we're trying to do is, so when we have a business, we have innovation, 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 and then we turn them all into standard operating procedures. But each time we do this, we have to continue this business as usual every single day, and we no longer have time for anything else other than to run the standard operating procedures. And there comes a point in every business, and I think this is what happened to us after about 10, 11 years, where you stop growing because everybody is at maximum capacity. It's what we were saying before, where everybody has a ball in or maybe two balls in each hand, and luckily, hopefully, a few of them bounce, and there are not too many glass balls that they fall on the ground, but things are dropping all the time. So when you try to implement Scrum or anything, or Agile practices or anything new into, especially like a restaurant, the resistance we get is the team members saying, but I don't have time. I don't have time for anything. I don't even have enough time to do the work that I've got. If somebody goes on holiday, and in England you get 12.07% of the payroll of team members are on holiday at any one time. So we've got just over 30 people, so we've always got 3.6 people on holiday. We're always behind. Now, when you've created these standard operating procedures, the problem is they go dark. Nobody really knows what's in them apart from the people that are doing them, and normally they're quite complex, and you hand them to one person, it becomes one person's responsibility, and nobody else knows what that person does. So when that person's not there, it doesn't get done, and when that person is there, you don't know what they're doing half the time. So when we did an audit on every single team member, we discovered that at least 30% of our admin was actually not needed anymore. People were running reports and keeping things in the business. So what we're trying to do all the time is pull all of those things out, make them visible, put them up on the wall. That's why we're now, when I'm going to show you around, you see later, a lot of the jobs, you think, well, why don't they just have a checklist? And the reason we don't have a checklist is we're trying to get rid of all reporting, so that everything that gets done is so visible that anybody who could walk into the room would be able to understand what the backlog is. We're not quite there yet, but that's where we're going with it. So I asked the team members in the kitchen, I said, look, what I want to do, I want to get to this stage where you have this innovation, and you have this standard operating procedures as two different circles. We want to try to put them together so there's this kind of sweet spot in between, and where you're constantly staying. You don't want to innovate too much, because every time you innovate too much, you change the product so dramatically, it's very difficult to cope with. We want to make small innovations that we can then turn into standard operating procedures and keep in that circle, keep rotating around that circle. And so the teams they got it, but they said, we just don't have time. So I did a deal with the chef, and I said, okay, give me the first 30 minutes of every day. Give me the first 30 minutes of every evening. And in fact, there were three. It was normally in the afternoon. We're trying to carve out that. So what we're starting to do now is we're innovating using that first, like we did this morning. We talk about that and working on the salad. We were one person short, so it didn't happen today in the way that we wanted to.
But it did yesterday.
But it did yesterday. So we used the first 30 minutes, and that they say, yeah, we can cope with that. But what's interesting is that they then have to get better at their BAU because they've got to catch up for that 90 minutes that they've lost in a day. And if you leverage that 30 minutes 3 times a day with my whole kitchen team, it comes out to 28.5 hours a week of innovation time that we've managed to just pull out. So that's what we're experimenting with now. And Davide was saying something that Jim Copeland said, that Scrum, when it first started, he said, he just gave me the quote, he said, is a methodology to make continuous experiments and learn to improve. And it's just kind of like that thing, it's not necessarily doing anything other than putting the structure in place so that we can constantly improve what we do, rather than just become a dinosaur and die out because we're totally overwhelmed with our business as usual. As again, maybe 30% of which is redundant.